Well, it's the third major building blocks of organizational structure. It is usually done by formalizing reporting relationships. Originally, we discussed the process of specialization. We also discussed how to engage in departmentalization, mentally establishing a structure for our organization. And now we are going to focus on the establishment of the decision-making hierarchy, which comes last. Okay, so what does it mean by establishment of the decision-making hierarchy? Okay, determining who in our organization has the ability to make decisions. Okay, now there are a number of different ways that we can do this, and usually there are variations of the two options. Seldomly do companies fall into either bucket. So let's go through those and describe them real quick, and then we'll get into kind of the implications of the pros and cons of each of the different forms of establishing authority. The first is what we call as a centralized form of decision making. We are concentrating authority in the hands of very few people in the organization. All decisions, the processes involved are handled strictly at the top or at the executive level. Okay? So in this kind of organization, centralized, even those decisions regarding everyday operations and the processes are generally decided upon by upper level executives or the business owner itself. And the policies are put in place to ensure the rest of the company follows the directions of the executives. An example given to you is McDonald's, or any other fast food restaurants. They practices centralization as a way to maintain standardization, to maintain consistency in terms of the equipment used, in terms of the procedures, in terms of the kitchen procedure, and so on. Okay, so this is usually for stable organization with predictable environment. And the other option is to utilize what we call as decentralized form of decision making. And with this particular form of decision making, what we are doing is where we are actually spreading out the authority, and so we are dispersing it into multiple layers in the hierarchy. But that doesn't mean that each employee has the same level of authority. But what does it mean is that we are giving a majority of your employees, of the employees, some reasonable ability or some opportunity to make decisions. Okay, so they are now giving the empowerment to make decision. Okay, so they need to make the decision right or accurately. So most of the time, this decentralized form of decision making will be applicable to those complex and dynamic environment. Okay, so basically the pros and cons of this decentralized organization. For centralized, it will maintain consistency, what we talk about standardization just now. However, the communication is slow, because there are many hierarchy, and it is not good for innovation and creativity. As compared to decentralized organization, the communication is better because less layer of management, better for innovation for sure, and the creativity, and it might impact of the poor decisions by because of the many of management layer. Okay, Some other terms that are important is flat organizational structure and tall organizational structure. But before we talk about that, let me explain on the term span of control. And this is where a number of people are supervised by one manager. Okay, so there are two types of span of control. We have wide, we have narrow span of control. What does it mean by wide? What does it mean by narrow? Okay, so there are a few factors that influence how wide or narrow the span of control of the organization. Among the factors are number of people directly managed by a supervisor. So if let's say the supervisor has to supervise quite a number of employees, okay, that is what we call as wide span of control. But if there's less than that, very narrow span of control. So other than that, the factors that might influence how wide or narrow the span of control is the employee's ability, whether they need supervision or then they just need less supervision. Okay, and then maybe the supervisor's managerial skills that will influence how wide or narrow the span of control is. Other than that, the similarity, the simplicity of the tasks, and the extent to which they are interrelated to each other will influence how wide or narrow the span of control of the organization. Usually, wide span of control is common in decentralized organization, or we call it as flat organizational structure. Okay? It is because it has rapid communication, since it's just have fewer layers of management. In figure 6.3a, they are giving you the example of law firms. So these law firms has a wide span of control, as they have very fewer layers of management. Then it has a very rapid communication, since it has very fewer layers of management. And how about the narrow span of control? It is commonly in centralized organization or in a tall organizational structure. Okay? It has slower communication as compared to wide, due to multiple layers of management that they have. An example given to you is an army. So it is clearly that army has a very narrow span of control, as it has a tall organizational structure. So multiple layers of management are there in the organization. Okay, so for these two, for wide or narrow span of control, for tall organizational structure, you might have a very high opportunity for promotion. But as compared to the flat organizational structure, you have very limited opportunity for promotion, because there are many employees under one supervision of the managers. Next, let's discuss on the delegation process. What is delegation process? It is a process through which a manager allocates work to subordinates. It is delegating the task, delegating the responsibility to the employees. So as a manager, we need to have this skill on how to delegate tasks. So in delegation process, it involves 3 steps. The first step is assigning responsibility, second is granting authority, and the third is creating accountability. In assigning responsibility, here the manager lists the activities to be performed along with the targets to be achieved, and the same is spelled out to the subordinate. Thus, in this first stage, the duties are to assign the subordinate as per their job roles. Okay, the second stage. Okay, at this stage, an adequate authority is delegated to the subordinate, which is essential to perform the duty assigned to them. So they are granting the authority. Okay, and the last step is creating accountability. Once the assignment or the task is accepted by the subordinates, okay, then he becomes responsible for the completion of the duty and is accountable to the superior for his performance. Yeah, so that are the 3 steps in delegation process. Let's see among the reason why managers are afraid to delegate tasks, to delegate responsibility. The first reason is my team doesn't know how to get the job done. Okay? So he or she thinks that the team doesn't know on how to do the job, on how to complete the job, on how to come up with the solution to the problem, to the existing problem. So the solution is if the members of your team are exhibiting opportunities, okay, for improved performance, offer them the training necessary for them to become more effective at their jobs. So you need to send your staff, your employees, your team to off the job or on the job training. Yeah? That is the thing that you should do. Okay, if you think that your team doesn't know on how to get the job done. Okay, second second reason is these managers, they like to control as many things as possible. Please, in the organization, we need to delegate tasks. Okay, we can't do everything on our own. If we do everything on our own, the result will be you will experience, you will face burnout, you will face failure. Okay, so as you begin to give away, to hand over your control, you will come to trust your team more as you watch your team members succeed. So we need to delegate tasks. So we need to work in a team. Another reason is this manager don't want anyone on my team outperforming me. Alright. If your staff is outperforming you, it is actually a bonus to you. You have a very good staff. Yeah? It is as a reflection of your success as a manager. Yeah? You should be proud of your staff. Right? Encourage them to excel, praise them, share the success of your team with the rest of the organization. Okay? So together we success. Okay? And then among the reason, this is the last reason that we share in the in table 6.1. This manager do not know on how to delegate tasks effectively. That is why we have few trainings in the organization or outside the organization, so that we know on how to delegate tasks. Some of us are born to be leader, but some we are not. So we need to go for training. Maybe you can read some books on the topic. We can read articles on the topic on how to delegate tasks effectively. Yeah. Here we have come to an end. This is the last subtopic of this chapter, 3 forms of authority. There are 3 forms of authority: line authority, staff authority, and committee and team authority. Let us discuss about what is line authority first. Line authority is an organizational structure in which authority flows in a direct chain of command from the top of the company, from the board of director to the bottom of the company. So line authority is basically based on the legitimate power. Okay, let me give an example. Most companies rely heavily on line department and link directly to the production and sales at the manufacturing company. So that is called the line authority. Okay, while another example is in a department store, they are focusing on the purchasing department. So purchasing department is the line authority. Okay, and then we have the staff authority as the second forms of authority. It belongs to those individuals or groups in an organization who provide services and advice to line managers. So basically, this staff authority is based on the expert power of the staff itself. Staff offer line managers planning, advice to research, for example, analysis, marketing analysis. They can also assist in policy implementation, monitoring and control in legal and financial matters, and many more. So they are giving advice, and they consult the line managers. And staff members help line departments in making decisions, but they don't generally have the authority to make the final decision. So they are just helping, they are just giving advice. Okay. And then the last one is committee and team authority. What does it mean by committee and team authority? Authority granted to committees or teams involved in a firm's daily operation. So at this operating level, many firms today are also using work team. Work team is a group of operating employees empowered to plan and organize their own work and to perform that work with minimum supervision. So most of the company, they will have this small group of people that they call as a committee or work team, and they may consist of top managers in each of the team, each of the committee and team authority. So they are given the authority to make decision, and some decision without the involvement of the, let's say, board of directors.